15 plus powerful lessons from the book, The Wonder of Girls. Number 1. Let's start this section by looking at how to artfully communicate with girls in their matters of feeling. Does this kind of exchange sound familiar? I don't care what you think. Honey, I wasn't trying to impose anything on you. You always think you know me. No, I don't. Yes, you do. Why are you so angry? You never understand? What? You're worthless. Caroline, don't talk to me that way. Oh, forget it. Your daughter leaves the room. What happened? There was no anger a moment ago, was there? And usually, 5 or 10 minutes later, the anger will be gone again. A mother can't help but wonder what she did to bring this on, and how to help her daughter feel better. A useful approach to angry exchanges like this is to treat them like detective stories. To look for clues, this approach helps a mom keep the distance she needs on outbursts like this, and helps her turn the moment into a teaching moment. Sometimes the anger is mainly a neural and hormonal stimulant, having little to do with interactive reality, and requiring no real response. Number 2. Looking back on what our mothers taught us. My mother taught me about stamina. You'll sit there till all that spinach is finished. My mother taught me about contortionism. Will you look at the dirt on the back of your neck? My mother taught me about the circle of life. I brought you into this world. I can take you out. My mother taught me about weather. It looks as if a tornado swept through your room. My mother taught me to appreciate a job well done. If you're gonna kill each other, do it outside. I just finished cleaning. My mother taught me how to solve physics problems. If I yelled because I saw a meteor coming at you, would you listen then? My mother taught me about hypocrisy. If I told you once, I've told you a million times. Don't exaggerate. My mother taught me how to be psychic. I think you know what's gonna happen when your father gets home. And my mother taught me logic. Because I said so, that's why mothering is truly one of the most difficult jobs on earth, and requires more courage than anyone ever measures. Perhaps the greatest courage is required when a daughter leaves home and becomes a woman. In some ways, a mother expects her son to leave her, but between mother and daughter there is often almost the same heartbeat, and then the daughter is gone. For this final act of courage, every mother deserves our blessing. Number 3. Women do best when they are independent of men. To be safe and successful as human beings, women must become, for the most part, independent of men. Boys and men are not inherently trustworthy. Girls and women must compete with them as needed, become more like them as it is strategic to do so, and seek a social position in which they don't need the other sex. Number 4. One of the miracles of nature is the fact that all human beings grow all their brain cells by the time the fetus is 18 weeks old. When people say of a 3 or 6 or 12-year-old, she's maturing so much, or her brain seems to be growing in leaps and bounds, they are referring not to the actual growth of new cells in the brain, but to maturation due to constant alterations in the way the already set cells communicate with one another. As your daughter's brain develops alongside the brains of boys, it is developing in similar areas: the frontal lobe, the temporal lobe, the prefrontal cortex, the limbic system, and so on, but is doing so very differently. As we explore your daughter's brain further, let's focus both on how it develops as a girl's mind, and also how that girl's mind differs in its development from a boy's mind. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, you probably will not see us again. If you have, congratulations, you are growing every day. Number 5. Often you might hear people say, moms are better at discipline than dads. Equally often, dads are better disciplinarians than moms. In the human conversation, we tend to take shortcuts as we both remember and discuss being parented. Sometimes these shortcuts are accurate, but so often, the application of discipline in a child's life is more complex. Since giving discipline is a crucial part of a father's love, it is fair to say that a man's daughters cannot fully feel loved or be loving if they do not experience love as not only a glow of affection, but also as discipline, the teaching of self-management of feeling and behavior. This discipline is provided, of course, by mom, dad, and others in the 3 families working together. Number 6. Whenever we talk about hormones and intimacy, we end up comparing female and male hormones. We don't want to stereotype, but we can't avoid what's before us. Female hormones and the female cycle are different than male. Testosterone is a sex and aggression hormone. It spikes and troughs in the male bloodstream diurnally, daily, but does not have a noticeable monthly cycle. Males, more than females, especially from age 10 to whatever age they conceive children, attach more of intimacy to sex drive. Studies have even tracked word use among young males and females, finding that females use more words to create long-term bonds, and males use more words to create short-term sexual activity. Every son wants love and affection, just like every daughter. Every boy wants attachment and needs it, often desperately, as does every man. However, even down to use of words, hormones affect the imperative toward that intimacy in the sexes in different ways. Number 7. One of humanity's highest goals has always been to give intimate love and attachment to those who clearly express or show their need for it. Females more often and more obviously evidence their need for empathy and intimacy than males. Girls ask for connectivity because it is connection, attention, intimacy, and attachment that help them feel, for many days a month, that they will be okay, they'll make it, they'll not be abandoned even though they become so difficult. A father of 3, 1 girl and 2 boys, told me, "I see my daughter's fragility more often than my son's. Her actions tell me when to give her more love." Number 8. A mother's sounds are to her infant what the best poetry is to a sophisticated adult, or the song a teenager will not forget long into old age. A mother's eyes carry a piece of her daughter's soul, and that brings to the relationship of mother and daughter an intrinsic understanding of each other, and at some point the need to pull away. To mother a daughter is an act of great love, for the mother gets the chance to be of service not only to this new life, but also to all the unbidden memories of her own girlhood. To mother any child is the supreme act of self-sacrifice, for there is little room for a mother's ego when a child's soul is so constantly beckoning for love and attention. Mothering is a sacred profession that has, in our day and age, been relegated to a sub-profession. Hence, mothers live today in an unavoidable tension, a juggling of selves, and at times a kind of shame. Given the way nature is, right before our eyes, calling most women, no matter their culture, to mother children at a certain stage of their lives, the tension mothers feel today is a sadness mothers today carry along with their passionate, intense love of their children. Number 9. Rebellion is something of a national American pastime, but it is not necessarily what your daughter wants or needs. The openness and depth of your communication with her between about 8 and 13 years old will, to a great extent, shape how rebellious she becomes. The more attached she is to you and your extended family, the less she will need to bond with rebellious kids. The more respectful you are of her, and she of you, the less she will become accustomed to being disrespectful. The more time you take to understand her and help her understand herself, the more accustomed she will become to relying on you. This reliance is a good thing to develop. By the time she is 14 or 15, she will try to work around it herself while still remaining attached. Thus, she will do what she is meant to during adolescence, learn how to be alone while still knowing she is loved. Ultimately, this is the best kind of self-trust. Number 10. Mothering a daughter is a constant communication. If you're not talking to your daughter, you're listening to her. And if neither of you is speaking, nonverbal communication carries constant messages. There are a number of tricky communication areas mothers get into with girls. Keeping healthy communication going is, after understanding your daughter's nature, perhaps the most important thing in the mother-daughter relationship. Number 11. Discipline is most effective when it is part of a discipline system. This system is set up among primary caregivers, mom, dad, childcare, and hopefully applied in terms of core values and procedures in extended family, school, church, and other parts of the 3 families. Discipline is only in small part about punishment. In large part, it is about building character, testing self-esteem, and teaching social skills that will ultimately create a self-disciplined adolescent and adult. As your daughter moves through the stage of life from birth to about kindergarten, you are constantly ordering her life, while you follow her lead a great deal of the time. You give her your breast, or if necessary, the bottle when she's hungry. You are also taking charge, disciplining, by creating, for instance, a sleep schedule for her. Number 12. One way to measure success as parents is to watch the tenor of whining in your girls. Every girl whines, but how much is too much? In our home, we practice a no whining policy. Whining is considered improper behavior and ultimately unsuccessful. Not only is it off limits in our family, when it does occur, we try to point out how obviously unsuccessful a girl who whines will be. We believe that whining is bad form and unsuccessful because we feel it is the kind of manipulativeness that does not ultimately help a girl find equality in the adult world. What is gained in adult relationships by whining generally backfires. While living a just don't whine policy, it is useful if you teach the alternative, use logic. Require your daughters to logically explain to you why they want something and how the thing they want will help not only themselves, but also one other person, place, or thing. Whining is something to help a girl phase out by the time she's about 5. It is useful to remember that whining behavior is generally not emotional behavior. In other words, a dad is not hurting his daughter's emotional development by helping her to stop whining. Whining is generally a manipulative strategy. Number 13, the journey of adolescence is a journey of individuation and of new aloneness. When we were innocent children, beloved and cared for by our families, when, for instance, we were babies in our mother's arms, or 7-year-olds who always knew mom or dad would pick us up after school, we did not know aloneness. As a girl enters pre-adolescence, then puberty, then full adolescence, then becomes a young woman, she learns what it means to be alone. She craves the aloneness as much as she fears it. She is no longer protected from the human condition, the sense that each of us is, in some mysterious way, alone, and learning how to manage that aloneness, that individual, irrepressible identity, is the source of our strength. The adolescent girl's journey to individuation, there are so many words used for it. Independence, autonomy, separation from mom and dad, is a journey into self-trust. If it is a journey well mentored by 3 families, we want our daughters to become autonomous. We want them to learn to trust themselves. It is the primary goal of adolescence. If we have to put up with some strange adolescent behavior, angers, little rebellions, experimentations, and even scary risk-takings, we'll complain, cajole, guide, and let go in our continuing commitment to our child. Number 14. Adolescence is a journey of separation from attachments, one that has a set developmental pattern. An adolescent girl takes her time separating from attachments and chooses new attachments, mentors, coaches, friends, boyfriends. When divorce occurs, as it generally does just before adolescence, the normal pattern of attachment and separation often dissolves. Now the girl is forced into attachments she can't, many times, complete, and forced away from attachments she desperately needs. She's angry, she's regressing, the mother said. She doesn't go between our houses very well, the father said. She doesn't like me, the stepmother said. I don't know if she's bonding with me, the stepfather said. While they spoke of many other things, including her fear of getting fat, mean kids, media imagery, gender stereotypes, each of these parents knew, even without knowing, that the key problem here was the divorce and the girl's new, difficult episode in her journey of love. Number 15. Human nature is not very important to girls' lives. Girls are who they are predominantly because of the way they are socialized in our society. Nature plays a smaller part in why girls are the way they are. When parents don't fully understand their children, much of the wonder of parenting is lost. In both the minds of parents and children, parenting becomes like a business, always on the verge of failure or bankruptcy. Parents, teachers, and community members who are not equipped with the wisdom of nature in understanding their children make painful mistakes both in action and in thought. They think themselves to blame for things in which they play little part, and they neglect to provide ways of love and nurturance that they did not know they should provide. They become embattled in causes, but discover they do not understand the girl herself or the boy beside her, and they often try to direct their daughter towards certain social and political goals that may not be right for the personality and nature of that particular girl. They become cut off from the child, especially during adolescence, when their child wants desperately to be understood. A great deal of our society's woes grow from the isolation adolescents feel from their caregivers. Number 16. A father's love can make or break a girl. Just as there is no way to understate the importance of a mother in a girl's life, there is no way to understate a father's. He is the hero of her childhood, and often a wall she pushes against during her adolescence. He is often both the rule maker, laying out laws of discipline and competence, and the rule breaker, helping his daughter take risks, push the envelope, and explore uncharted worlds. He often exists at extremes in her psyche, at poles of authority and then playfulness, immersion and then absence. A daughter forms in her own mind an impression not only of the real father she lives with, but also the ideal father who spends so much time away from her. A father who is honest with his daughters about his own flaws becomes her confidant. A father who remains stoic becomes her enigma to solve. A father who distances himself too greatly from his daughter becomes a burden she carries into life. A girl must know with all her big heart that she is loved by her father. No matter his style of fathering, a man who supports his daughter's progress can become her oracle. He carries from his closeness with her an abiding, even if unconscious, sense of prediction about how his daughter will turn out. There is no perfect way to be a father. There is only the demand that the father give his love unceasingly. Fathers adore their daughters, but in their adoration is often some distance and complex expectations which can shape a girl for better or worse. If a father dotes too much on a girl, without asking her to prove herself worthy, she can often become one-dimensional, able to prosper only in relationships where this doting is recreated. If a father does not give her approval as she needs it, she can often become an adolescent, and then a woman desperate for approval, especially men's approval. If a father gives his daughter too little conversation, she is not generally harmed. But if this lack of conversation is combined with a lack of physical affection, a lack of activity together, and a general lack of his presence in her life, a daughter is likely to learn too little about how to love, and too much about how painful love can be. If a father rejects his daughter too much or judges her too harshly too often, she learns she is inherently inadequate. Number 17. The stages of dad. Let me end with this chapter with a touching and somewhat humorous note sent to me via the internet. Many thanks to the author who did not name herself. 4 years old, my daddy can do anything. 8 years old, my daddy knows a lot. 12 years old, my daddy doesn't really know quite everything. 14 years old, naturally, daddy doesn't know that either. 16 years old, my father, he's a dinosaur. 19 years old, dad's okay, just clueless. 25 years old, well, he might know a little bit about it. 35 years old, before we decide, let's see what dad thinks. 45 years old, wonder what daddy would have thought about it. 65 years old, wish I could talk it over with daddy. How does a father of daughters measure his life? Certainly it must be in whether his daughters find happiness. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, you probably will not see us again. If you have, congratulations, you are growing every day.